G. Standard fingering for G, good left hand position, thumb low on the back of the neck, nothing touching the bottom of the neck here, and your second, third, and fourth fingers are the best set of fingers to use for playing our G chord. Almost all the time. So again, that's what we want to use. Standard fingering for G. Now it's going to a D chord, but we need the bass note F sharp. Standard D, and there are some normal Ds, of course, in this, or root position Ds, I should say, after having just explained all that in the theory breakdown. D chord's played with your first, second, and third fingers, and if you need F sharp in the bass, F sharp is here on the 6th string at the 2nd fret. Two ways of doing that. One is to go into baseball bat position, wrap your thumb around the top of the neck, and use your thumb to play the F sharp in the bass. Not a bad idea in this particular case, as long as when it goes to the C chord right after it, that you get your hand back down into good position. So the C is played in our standard fingering, and then the next chord in the progression is D again. So hopefully you already know most of those chords, but the D with F sharp in the bass, we're either going to play with your thumb or with your first finger on the F sharp, and then you need to play the normal 3 notes of the D chord with your second, third, and fourth fingers. One huge advantage, and I'll talk about this in the later on, because we're using arpeggios, we're playing the strings one at a time, so you wouldn't have to come from a G chord to just slamming this whole chord down at once like that. You'll have the opportunity to put them down one finger at a time, just as you go. So you'll build the chord in the order you're playing the notes, and I'll touch on that more in the breakdown segment of our chord changes. But same thing when we go to C from this chord, you'd want to make sure you put your fingers down in the order you're going to play them. I mean, starting with your third finger on the bass note on the 5th string. So and the only other chord that happens in the song is E minor, played with your second and third fingers. And again, really good hand position. Your hand should never look like this when you're playing any of these chords. The palm of your hand cannot be on the back of the neck. It has to be down below the neck, down here, with your thumb flat on the back. So for E minor, again, your second and third fingers are the ones you usually want to use for E minor. And at one point in this song, we have an E minor, and we just let go of the bass note early, so your third finger comes off on the way to a C. But the lead, let me talk about that just a little bit. I'm going to move a little bit here so I can get you further up the neck, because the lead is a very simple thing played in 8th position. So I've got my index finger situated at the 8th fret, and the bend that I have to do at the 10th fret is done by using all 3 fingers laid out 1 fret at a time. I've got my first finger at the 8th, my second finger at the 9th, and my third finger at the 10th fret of the 2nd string. And this note at the 10th fret has to be bent up and down, up a whole step and back down. It's kind of a long way on an acoustic guitar, but that's what you want to do here. And you really need to make sure that you use your other 2 fingers to help provide the strength to make that happen. You really can't, your third finger is not strong enough to bend a note a whole step without horrible things happening, like I probably pulled a muscle there doing that. So it's really important that you use all 3 fingers together, and it gives you much more control over that note moving up and down. So that's really the only tricky thing in the lead. Then to the 7th fret of the 1st string, 8th fret, 10th fret. So I actually just moved into 7th position, except I'm not going to the 10th. I'm actually going to slide to the 12th and come back to the 10th. So that's what that looks like in the close-up. We're also going to have a section later on where we're going to stay, everything's going to be down here in 1st position, and we're going to be picking out the melody 1 note at a time. So again, in 1st position, each finger is assigned to 1 fret. Your first finger will play the 1st fret, second will play the 2nd, third will play the 3rd. So when we get to picking out the melody of the verse, that's what we're going to be doing, is playing all the notes down here. Oh, except I'm going to use my 4th finger for that note. I'll explain why when we get to it. So that's what's happening in the left hand for all the different parts of Wonderful Tonight.